While the entire paddock is obsessing over teenage prodigies, Cadillac just made the most controversial decision in modern Formula One. They looked at a grid full of young talent and said, no thanks. Instead, betting their American F1 dream on two drivers most people consider past their prime. Everyone's calling it boring, but here's why this veteran move might be the smartest signing in F1 history and what everyone else is missing. Let's get one thing straight. Sergio Pérez and Valtteri Bottas aren't some washed-up has-beens looking for a retirement paycheck. These are proven race winners with championship-level pedigree that most of the grid can only dream of. Sergio Pérez has 14 seasons of F1 experience, 6 Grand Prix victories, and 39 podium finishes. But here's what the stats don't tell you. This is a driver who delivered one of the greatest defensive drives in F1 history at Monaco 2022, holding off Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz for 20 brutal laps with damaged side pods. He mastered the chaos of Baku 2021, winning after Max's tyre failure, and his wet weather brilliance at Turkey 2020 nearly gave Racing Point their first victory. When Red Bull needed someone to secure Constructors' championships while Max fought for drivers' titles, Pérez delivered under the most intense pressure imaginable. Valtteri Bottas has 10 F1 wins, 67 podiums, and 20 pole positions. But what the numbers don't show is his technical mastery. He regularly outqualified Lewis Hamilton during Mercedes' most dominant period, demonstrating the kind of single-lap pace and technical consistency that few drivers could match in that car. Sources within Mercedes say Bottas was instrumental in developing the W11, arguably the most dominant F1 car ever built, providing the technical feedback that helped create a machine that won 13 of 17 races. Combined, they have over 500 Grand Prix starts and more than 100 podium finishes. That's not just experience, that's a masterclass in F1 excellence spanning nearly 2 decades. And while everyone's calling them past their prime, Cadillac sees something different. Proven champions who know exactly what it takes to win. This decision will make Cadillac competitive from day one, while teams banking on teenagers will be struggling to understand why their cars are slow. Formula One has completely lost its mind over young drivers. 6 of the 2025 Grids drivers are in their first full-time season. We're basically watching a daycare center with wheels. Mercedes just handed their second seat to 19-year-old Andrea Kimi Antonelli after he crashed in his first FP1 session at Monza.
Antonelli spins into the gravel and into the wall.
Hardly the confidence-inspiring debut you want from your future star. McLaren's betting their future on drivers under 25. Even Ferrari's playing the youth game with Charles Leclerc leading their charge. But here's the brutal truth everyone's ignoring. This sport destroys young drivers with surgical precision. For every Max Verstappen who thrives under pressure, there are dozens who crumble spectacularly. Look at Nyck de Vries, Formula E champion. Looked brilliant in his Williams debut at Monza 2022. Then got dropped from AlphaTauri after just 10 races when he couldn't handle the pressure of wheel-to-wheel combat. Or consider Mick Schumacher. Son of the greatest driver in F1 history, Formula 2 champion, had every advantage possible. Still couldn't handle F1 pressure, and lost his seat after 2 seasons of costly crashes, including that devastating Jeddah 2022 accident that cost Haas millions in repairs. If Michael Schumacher's son can't make it work, what makes teams think their random teenager will? According to paddock sources, team principals are privately worried about their young driver gambles, but are too committed to this strategy to admit it publicly. The entire F1 establishment has convinced itself that young equals fast, that fresh blood equals championship potential. They're chasing the next generational talent while completely ignoring the carnage of promising careers destroyed by F1's unforgiving nature. And while everyone's playing this lottery with teenagers, Cadillac walked into the room and said, "We'll take the guys with 500 Grand Prix starts. Between them, thank you very much." Here's where Cadillac's strategy becomes absolutely genius: the timing. 2026 isn't just another season, it's a complete reset of Formula One. The technical regulations are changing so dramatically that every advantage young drivers think they have becomes worthless overnight. Let me break down what's coming, because the technical details matter. The MGU-H is completely eliminated. The MGU-K output jumps from 120 kilowatts to 350 kilowatts. That's nearly triple the electrical power deployment. The hybrid system will provide 50% of total power instead of the current 20%, fundamentally changing how drivers manage energy throughout a stint. Add in active aerodynamics, with movable front and rear wings, plus a 30% reduction in overall downforce, and you've got cars that will be more like spaceships than anything currently on the grid. Sources within the FIA technical department say the complexity of managing these new power units will be unlike anything F1 has seen. The energy deployment strategies alone will require a completely different approach to racecraft. Now ask yourself this: when everything changes, when all the data becomes worthless, when every team is scrambling to understand completely new technology, do you want a 19-year-old trying to figure it out? Or do you want veterans who've survived multiple regulation changes? Pérez lived through the 2014 hybrid introduction, when teams were struggling with energy management, the 2017 aerodynamic overhaul that made cars 5 seconds faster, and the 2022 ground effect return that caught half the grid off guard. Bottas helped develop championship-winning Mercedes cars during the most complex technical period in F1 history, mastering the intricate balance between electrical and combustion power that will be even more critical in 2026. Cadillac will likely outperform at least 3 established teams in their debut season, while rookie-heavy lineups struggle to adapt to the new regulations. When 2026 arrives and every team is starting from zero, experience becomes the ultimate advantage. Here's what the youth-obsessed teams are completely missing. Car development is everything for a new constructor, and developing a competitive F1 car requires something no driving academy can teach: experience. Valtteri Bottas spent 5 years at Mercedes during their most dominant period. But here's the detail that matters. He was Lewis Hamilton's primary setup reference during the development of the W10, W11, and W12. Engineers at Brackley say Bottas could feel a 0.1 second difference in lap time and explain exactly which corner was causing it. When Cadillac's technical team asks for input on their 2026 power unit, they're getting advice from someone who helped create the benchmark that every other team is still trying to match. Sergio Perez has driven for 6 different F1 teams and experienced power units from every manufacturer, starting with Sauber, Ferrari engines, then McLaren, Mercedes, Force India, Racing Point, Mercedes, and Red Bull, Honda, then Red Bull. But here's what makes him invaluable. He's experienced every philosophy of car design, from the ultra-aggressive Red Bull concept to the conservative Mercedes-powered approach. At Sauber in 2011 to 2012, he learned how to extract performance from limited resources. At McLaren in 2013, he saw how a top team can get development completely wrong. At Force India, he mastered the art of maximizing an underdog car's potential. Compare that to a rookie who's driven maybe 2 different F1 cars in their career. When they say the car feels weird, engineers have to guess what that means. When Perez tells Cadillac engineers, "This reminds me of the McLaren MP428's front-end instability," but with the Force India Phi JM10's rear-end characteristics, they know exactly what needs to be fixed. Cadillac's technical director specifically requested drivers with multi-team experience for exactly this reason. Beyond their driving abilities, Perez and Bottas bring invaluable technical consulting experience from the best teams in F1. The data doesn't lie about how new teams perform with different driver strategies. Analysis of every F1 entry since 2010 proves this point. When Haas entered F1 in 2016, they chose experience: Romain Grosjean and Esteban Gutierrez. Result? Points in their very first race at Australia 2016, when Grosjean finished 6th and 8th in the Constructors' Championship. The best debut performance by a new team in the modern era. Compare that to teams that went young. HRT entered with rookies Bruno Senna and Karan Chandok, never scored a point and folded after 3 seasons. Virgin Racing started with Timo Glock and Lucas de Grassi, both relatively inexperienced, struggled for 3 years before becoming Manor and eventually disappearing. Even in recent years, lineups with 2 inexperienced drivers have struggled to build momentum and develop competitive cars, often wasting crucial development time, learning basics rather than pushing performance forward. The pattern is crystal clear. New teams need veterans to survive, and the data proves it conclusively. Even the most successful young drivers needed veteran teammates to reach their potential. Max Verstappen had Daniel Ricciardo teaching him racecraft in 2016 to 2018. Then Perez providing the stability for championship runs. Charles Leclerc had Sebastian Vettel as his mentor during his crucial development years at Ferrari. Lando Norris learned from Carlos Sainz, then Daniel Ricciardo. The pattern is obvious: young speed needs veteran wisdom. F1 teams have learned this unspoken rule of driver pairing. Never put 2 inexperienced drivers together unless you want to waste years of development time. But here's the genius of Cadillac's approach. They're not gambling on potential, they're investing in proven performance. Both Perez and Bottas have already survived the F1 pressure cooker. They know how to handle media scrutiny, technical challenges, and championship pressure. That's not something you can teach in a simulator. There's another layer to Cadillac's strategy that's absolutely brilliant: the American factor. This isn't just about building an F1 team, it's about representing American motorsport on the global stage. The pressure will be immense, the scrutiny constant, and the expectations sky high. Pérez brings the Mexican market and Latin American fan base, crucial for Cadillac's global ambitions. But here's the detail. General Motors executives specifically wanted a driver who could handle the pressure of representing an entire continent's F1 hopes. Pérez has been carrying Mexican motorsport expectations for over a decade, regularly performing in front of 300,000 fans at the Mexico City Grand Prix. That's pressure most drivers never experience. Bottas brings European credibility and technical expertise, but more importantly, he brings championship-level composure. His Mercedes tenure demonstrated he never panics, never makes excuses, and always provides constructive feedback even when the car is terrible. That's exactly what a new American team needs when the inevitable struggles come. And here's the kicker. Both drivers are hungry for redemption. Pérez wants to prove Red Bull made a mistake dropping him after his 2024 struggles. Bottas wants to show he's not finished after his 2024 season with Sauber. That motivation, combined with their experience, creates the perfect foundation for American F1 success. Cadillac's official statement was crystal clear. Unmatched blend of experience, leadership, and technical acumen. Not speed, not potential, not marketability, experience, leadership, and technical knowledge. That's not the language of a team hoping to get lucky. That's the language of a team with a plan. This pairing will likely deliver points in Cadillac's first season, while other new driver combinations struggle to find their footing. What really scares the F1 establishment about Cadillac's approach is that it exposes the fundamental flaw in everyone else's strategy. The traditional powers have invested everything in the idea that young equals fast, building entire driver development programs to find the next teenage sensation. But Cadillac is betting that wisdom beats speed, that experience trumps potential. Team principals across the paddock are questioning their youth strategies but are too committed to change course now. They're watching Cadillac's approach with nervous interest, wondering if they've been playing the wrong game entirely. The long-term vision is obvious and brilliant. Use Pérez and Bottas to develop the car, establish team culture, and create a winning environment. Then, once Cadillac is competitive, bring in young talent who'll inherit a championship-capable car rather than having to build one from scratch. It's the Mercedes model perfected. Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg built the dynasty, Bottas maintained it, now they're transitioning to Antonelli. But notice the order. Experience first, youth second. Cadillac is following the same playbook, and it's genius. They understand something the rest of F1 has forgotten. Building a successful team isn't about finding the fastest driver. It's about creating the best car. And that requires experience, technical knowledge, and the ability to develop machinery under pressure. The 2026 regulation changes create the perfect storm for this strategy. When everyone is starting from zero, when all advantages disappear overnight, experience becomes everything. The veteran gamble isn't a gamble at all. It's the smartest strategy in modern F1. While everyone else is playing the lottery with young talent, Cadillac is investing in proven performers who know how to win. If Cadillac succeeds, by 2028, every other team will be scrambling to find experienced drivers to pair with their young stars. The veteran gamble will become the veteran blueprint. Expect Cadillac to outperform McLaren, Aston Martin, and at least one of the traditional top teams in their debut season. When 2026 arrives, the results will show whether experience really does beat youth in the ultimate pressure cooker of Formula One. If you think Cadillac's veteran strategy is going to embarrass all the young guns on the 2026 grid, hit that like button and tell me in the comments which experienced driver you think will have the bigger impact. Subscribe because this is just the beginning of Cadillac's F1 revolution. And you won't want to miss what happens when these veterans show the kids how it's really done.